Hello and welcome to the SBL Guru channel. And we've got with us today Lorraine. I met her 31 years ago in Surfers Paradise, Australia. She's a physical therapist in America, what we call in the UK a physiotherapist. And we've got a very nice insight today because what we're going to talk about is breathing and breath work and how that might help you if you're preparing for exams, what the benefits are. And I know nothing about this subject, so it's something that I'm going to learn quite a lot talking to Lorraine about this. And Lorraine, breath work. I keep hearing it talked about. I saw it on the Diary of a CEO podcast. I thought I'm kind of breathing already. So, am I not breathing already? How can more breathing be good for me?
I think there's breathing and breathing. Of course, we're all breathing because obviously we would not be here if we were not breathing. But there's more and more focus these days, and really drawing on some of the ancient old ways, if you like, through some of the Chinese medicine and the yoga traditions. We're turning back to some things that people use for thousands of years, because breath control directly allows you to link a sense of calm. And ultimately what you're doing is controlling your central nervous system. So this is an extremely powerful thing to do through breathing in and out in particular ways used in certain methods. And there are so many. So really it's bringing mindfulness to the breath that we take, because we don't think about a single breath that we take most days as we go by.
I don't.
Or right, and where it comes from. If you happen to take something like yoga, then you will have been talking about breath, because in certain postures or doing the relaxation pose at the end, they're usually going to tell you, we want you to breathe into your upper part of your lung, into the middle part of your lung, into the lower part of your lung, and expand the ribs at the back. And until somebody cues you on that, you're like, how can I do that? What are you talking about?
But then I never got to that.
Right. But when you then think about it, it's actually totally possible to direct your breath and become aware of it and to fill up those areas and become more efficient. So different types of breath create efficiency in different circumstances. So basically day to day, we don't think about anything. We're just going along. We're in our heads, right? In the West, that's how we're thought of in the Eastern cultures, is that we're just in our heads all the time. We're heads that are sort of carried around by our bodies, and we don't really get very grounded very often. We have to do mindful practice in order to bring us to that place, and it's so much less a part of our culture than it has been in some of the other cultures, the ancient cultures. But you can do it anywhere, and nobody will know that you're doing it. Because it can be just as much as you're counting in your head for what you're doing with your breath at that moment. So super simple, super discreet. You can do it anywhere. Certainly can do it in your exams.
I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay. So when we're getting ready for an exam situation, right? I mean, say it's the day, and your nervous system is going to be revving a little bit, right? You're ready for action. Everything's going. Maybe you're a little nauseated. Maybe you're a little clammy and sweaty. Maybe you're a little shaky. All those different things. And what that means is that you're really getting into that fight flight almost. Your emergency situation nervous system. You're ready for high reactivity. But when your nervous system starts revving that way because of your thoughts, because of like, something's coming at me, I have to be ready. And so you start to escalate. So what starts to happen is your breathing starts to get high and shallow. We're up here. But when we do that, it really, it's kind of this loop with our brain. The more that we breathe like that, our brain says, oh, if you're breathing like that, we must be in fight flight. And so everything starts to escalate and you go on high alert, hyper arousal. It's not a great state to be doing focus work. It's not a great state at all to be doing focus work. It's great if you're like, I'm in a dark alleyway and I hear a noise and I've got to get out of here, and which way do I take? Because you're making really hyper fast, quick decisions that you don't even register. But that's not the situation when you're sitting down to do an exam. So what we want to do is calm this nervous system down. And so what we start to do is calm our breathing. And it's very, you can objectively see how quickly this will change your physiology. So if you're really good at taking your pulse, just a little radial pulse there, where you find the pulse in your wrist under your thumb. And you can, mine's going to
It's
be
on your
fast because I'm
watch as well,
talking.
right? The pulse is also on your watch.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
smartwatch.
Yeah, yeah, it's so high tech. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you could probably see it there too. But basically, what you start to do is slow your breathing down and make it mindful. So the single easiest style of breathing to do is what we call box breathing. And what that means is that you count in for, say, the count of 4, you hold it for the count of 4, you breathe out for the count of 4, and then you hold it out for the count of 4. And if you do, let's say we do 3 rounds. I don't know how much time you want to take on
Yeah.
this, but basically, if we do 3 rounds of that, what you'll find is that your heart rate starts to change,
Can I
and you
just
may even
clarify?
feel,
Are we
yeah,
breathing through our nose or are we breathing through our
it's best if
mouth?
you can. So,
Okay.
so it's best to do nasal breathing, and I'm glad that's a great question because when you breathe nasally, you go straight into your diaphragm, which is sort of where your belly rises and falls, and that is the most efficient way for us to breathe.
Okay.
So that's really what you want to do because the diaphragm pulls the lower part of the lung down and causes the maximum amount of air and oxygen delivery to come in and then get into your blood supply. So we'll just go ahead and do our box
Let's do
breathing.
it.
All right.
I'll be your guinea pig here. So let's go.
Okay. So settle in. Got your back support there. Make sure you're sitting back. Okay. So I'm just going to count you and you can do it. Okay. So I won't be able to breathe and talk at the same time. All right. So let's go for the in breath. We're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Slowly let it out over 4, 3, 2, 1, and then hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, breathe in slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Slowly out. 2, 3, 4. And hold it out. 2, 3, 4. Last round. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Release. 2, 3, 4. And hold it out. 2, 3, 4.
It did feel good. I mean, it did feel like
It's
something's
different,
happening.
isn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Well, I could see, and of course 3 is not enough, but what I would suggest is people do that for 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But what I noticed with you is you already changed your breathing pattern.
Yeah.
So the first breath you took was like a quick sniff, and you were
Yeah.
done in 1 second.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, no, I've got to keep holding it, right? So it's all about the slow breath in, the easy hold, the slow breath out, and it should be comfortable to pause and hold it out. At
Yeah.
first, when your nervous system is racing, it wants to go and pull the next breath in. And what you'll find is that it gets easier and easier to do the 4. And when it's like, well, this is easy, you can say, well, now I'm going to make my box 6. And
Yeah.
then I can make it 8. And you see how big you can make your box. And as big as you can make it, your nervous system will be calming down slower and slower and slower. And your heart rate will come down and you'll become very focused. And it's almost like taking a micro nap. So if you're just like, your eyes are going fuzzy and your brain is killing you, but like I've got to give it another hour. Like it's just not helpful at that point. You could take time out and do something like that, and it may well be that you reboot.
I think that's great. I really like that. It's something that's very practical for students who are just about to go into the exam hall, and they just like that breathing just gives you that little bit of calmness if you practice it. I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, it's easy.
What about breathing through your mouth? Is that a really bad thing to do? And what's the logic and news on breathing through your mouth?
It's really interesting, actually. So so of course we can breathe in and out of our mouths, but it's the less efficient way to breathe, and it is where we do our heavy breathing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like so it really is more associated with this upper lung and more the fight flight thing. So actually kind of breathing that way, and especially at speed, you will be in an accelerated state kind of a thing.
Okay.
So getting to that place where you've got to control and slow the breath down, because the nose is just obviously a smaller channel too. It starts to control everything and slow it down, but it really affects your physiology. Um, But it's really interesting. A guy called James Nestor is his name, wrote a whole book called Breath. This is everything you ever want to know about why you should breathe through your nose. It's
Right.
super interesting, but he relates to studies where even the physiology of the mouth and where the jaw sits and the opening of the passages is changed by habitually training yourself to breathe through your nose. That's apparently how we're really supposed to breathe most of the time. Most of us don't. And of course, if you've got sinuses, issues and various things like that, it makes it extremely difficult to do that. But every way you can, it will calm your physiology down, and ultimately is what we probably should be doing. I know you had a note there as well about the taping the mouth together, that he writes about that in
Yeah.
here. And it's just like, what medieval torture is this, right? But actually, it will kind of force you to breathe through your nose. And apparently, it's supposed to ultimately help clear your sinuses in the long run.
Okay.
I guess if you don't die in the effort,
Yeah, no, that's
in the
what we're talking
practice.
about. The recommendation to tape your mouth while you're sleeping. It seems like a death
It
wish to
seems
do that, right?
extreme.
But
But for most of us, our mouths will come open during the night. If there's any
yeah,
kind of a blockage, then we will start mouth breathing, but it was going to dry our mouth out. And
yeah.
then, often that's why we're waking up and we've got to take a sip of water or whatever because we're sort of dry out and uncomfortable. It stops those kinds of things. And of course, this nasal breathing is supposed to really help us access that deeper sleep too. So anyway, if people want to read in depth about that, I
Breath.
totally refer to
We'll
him.
we'll put a link in the description for it
Yeah,
towards
because
that
he
book.
literally wrote the book. But yeah, I can just say in general, yes, it's something we should try to do if we can.
Talking of books, I know you've just published your first book, and I'm very excited. Can you see a little bit of a synopsis about what the book is and who it's for, it's aimed at, and who's the target market for this book? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about the book you've just published, literally just hot off the shelves.
It is. So just in October, I finally got this book out. It's called Healthy is Beautiful. And it is aimed at preteen teen girls just as they're getting exposed to social media. It's about body type, body image, dysmorphia, different sort of expectations of women's bodies through the ages, different decades, bombshells of the 50s versus Twiggy of the 60s, and the Kate Moss of the 90s, and sort of now the Kardashians, on and on. It's impossible as far as the standards that are put upon young women. And so this is to try to give people a more realistic idea about the science, that we are just built differently. Everybody's got their own genetic pack of cards. You need to play to your strengths and be the healthiest version of yourself, whatever that looks like, because that will always be the most beautiful. It's got QR codes so that it's linked with videos and articles and pictures of different celebrities. And so we'll be able to update those every year as different things come up. My husband took a lot of the pictures,
Nice
of black and
pictures. I
white
was going to say
pictures
the
in
pictures are
here.
nice.
Yeah, a lot of them were clients of mine, CrossFit athletes and different people that volunteered to be perfect subjects. They were great examples of what it was I was trying to show, but gives advice on exercises for the different types, ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. Just trying to support the healthiest version of these young women and just trying to take some pressure off, give them some more realistic expectations. I would love to see it in the school system as part of health class. That would be my pie in the sky.
And will there be another book in the future? Is this book one? Is there more in the tank?
It's so interesting because that, like I was saying to you and when we talked earlier, it took me 10 years to get that book out just because life got in the way. But I am in a different chapter of my life, and there are other things. Of course, as soon as you write a book about girls, which was written because I have a daughter and it was part of my conversation with her, that's what led to that book. I didn't raise a boy, but I've had plenty of inquiries from people that are like, well, why isn't there one about boys? I'm like, well, I haven't got there yet,
Yeah.
and it's so maybe, yes. There's also other things as far as the way that I look at the body in my clinic is pretty different. Alignment, posture. It seems that the way I look at things is a little different for most people. And so I might start writing the book on that at some point.
Well, I'm literally sitting differently right now based on your last video. With last video we did together, I'm trying to think about my posture a little bit more as I'm just speaking to you. So,
I'm
it's
thrilled.
made the difference for me. Thanks very
That's
much,
great.
Lorraine. It's been really amazing talking to you. And we've got another video on a slightly different topic. So please look at the channel, and we'll put all the links to Lorraine's practice if you're in chronic pain in the North Carolina area. You can come and see her, and we'll definitely put a link to the book in there and the book about breaths. Thanks very much, Lorraine, and it's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Marty.